doses.
Okay.
But they come from a place that's normal in their genome.
So it's more genetically normal, basically.
The trait got
for that particular species.
Right. The trait has to be a normal trait in order for us to classify them under a certain classification.
Got you.
So you got different beings that look like different types of reptiles and insects. They call insectoids.
So now when we start speaking about the different beings such as like the Rumardians or the Greys, where do they fit in the scheme of this thing as far as like genetically? Is it that that's been exaggerated also, and there's a way that we can relate to it more as humans, or you know, are they from a specific star constellation and genetically they're just bred that way? What's your understanding on that?
A lot of those what we call grays, they in suits. They look like a sign when they take off the suit, but they probably more leaner from space travel. Causes the muscles to become leaner. So those, a lot of the people that see the big bug-eyed aliens, them helmets, they got on suits. They don't look like that. They look like they straight from motherfucking the sign. Or they look like Elijah Muhammad without the suit.
Gotcha. I see exactly what you're saying. It's more that they have like you're not taking a picture or of them themselves. It's like taking a picture of an astronaut that has a spacesuit on, basically.
Yeah, exactly that. But by us not knowing what's going on, we have to rationalize in our mind what we see. When we give the description and they draw it, we got this big bug-eyed alien creature that don't look nothing like that, but it look exactly like the spacesuit he wearing.
That makes all the sense in the world too, because you can just give realistic examples of just, you know, fucking NASA. And stuff like that with the space travel.
Not just NASA, not just space travel. The guy that goes to put on the deep sea diving suit.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that part. Yeah.
Imagine you ain't never seen the deep sea diving suit. You on the beach and the motherfucker come out the water with goggles on, the snorkel on.
Hey, we got the brother Rod Hayes in the building. I dropped this Cash App in the comment section. If y'all want to show the brother some love, he gonna drop it. We going all the way in today. Go ahead, brother. Finish.
So you on the beach. You ain't never seen nobody in a wetsuit. And they ask you to describe them. You gonna describe damn near a mermaid.
from the foot gear to the way they swimming, that makes sense.
Yep. All that is like, okay, so the Dogon talk about no more Amo coming out of the water.
That's
they
right.
kind of Icky and Inanna coming out the water. And they said they had on a fish suit, remember?
Yep.
The fish suit is for underwater activities. They used to use the skins of dolphins and beluga whales to make underwater suits.
And you know what, bro? When you look at those deep sea divers that be like in those animal theme parks and how that be dealing with like the whales and the dolphins, those black suits resemble exactly what you're saying, as if it came from the skin of a whale.
Mm-hmm. Because that's what they was using, right? And then they was using they can make it airtight. You can make the suit airtight
to the point where it fit your body like skin.
You can either make it fit your body like skin, or you can store air in the suit because it's airtight to take underwater while you're swimming, and you will control your breathing to determine how much farther you got to go underwater.
Right. So let's talk about Planet Risk. People want to know if Risk is a hypothetical planet or a literal planet.
I already posted that. NASA already said they found the planet with the 3 suns and all that. I posted that shit last year. They finally admit they discovered risk. Basically, they just didn't name it that.
Now, I know that because I seen a newspaper article on it. I actually
Mm-hmm.
seen a newspaper article on it. But these are the questions that the brothers and sisters that's been listening to you want to know because they kind of heavy into the Duwabu doctrine or protocols or whatever, and you know they see you as the most knowledgeable right now on the platform. So I said, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and see when the brother got some time, and we're gonna go in.
Hey,
So
look,
now with that, go ahead, bro.
I got a new Wabian brother in Detroit. Got a damn near photographic memory for this shit. That's what I used to study with.
Okay, is there a lot of Nawabians out there in Detroit? Because I met some in the feds.
Look, it's undercover Nuwabians everywhere. The ones that don't tell you they Nuwabians, but they work in the office buildings downtown.
Yeah. I know
Got
exactly what
every
you're talking about.
Malachi book he ever wrote on their bookshelf. They around. You just don't know who they is because they ain't running around propagating the doctrine openly like that. They passing as functional retarded Americans.
Sometimes that's best, especially when you're dealing with a way of life like ours, because you become a target sometimes, and people still got regular lives that they're trying to lead and fulfill their purpose in a whole different way. So I
Mm-hmm.
understand that. So here's another thing. When we start talking about the planet risk, right,
Mm-hmm.
and the space travel of the Riskians and the Anunnaki, um, where who started calling them Riskians as opposed to the Sumerians calling them Anunnaki?
Well, you gotta remember in Arabic, they call it Razak.
Those who provide.
Razaka is where the root word to risk is.
That's right. It means to provide.
Right. And when you calling them riskians, you just calling them providers. Right. So if it was already in the language, it was already in use. Because to provide, Razak becomes the providers, riskians. You know, but look, now we can sit here and have a risky in conversation. I don't got no problem with that. We can talk about the land mass, the water, all that shit. But I'm gonna tell you this. This is one of the major distractions for the human. We want to know more about risk than we know about Earth in order for us to be comfortable with understanding that risk is even there.
I agree.
Yeah. All of our problems on Earth is Earth problems that we got to fix on Earth. We can't go to risk to fix Earth's problems. So if we want to solve the problem, then we have to deal with what's on Earth and what's in front of us. Don't get caught staring at the sky while a motherfucker in front of you coming to cut you down.
You're right about that, because that is a
Right.
distraction.
For a long time, man, I didn't talk about anything extraterrestrial because I believe that we don't even pay attention enough to what's going on Earth to even be concerned with what's happening in the stars. As a collective.
I don't talk about it, to be honest with you. I don't even people don't even know what I know because I just let everybody else speak because I feel that from my perspective, there's so much that we need to do here. And we always, you know, we do get great leaders, don't get me wrong, but every time something happens with one of our leaders, it seems to knock us back, and then it's like we have to start all over. So to me, extraterrestrial involvement in you know different aspects, it's nothing wrong with it, but it's like, man, do you know how far we are from where we need to be based on the fact of where we stand right now? So I can't concentrate on that. I can talk about it, but it's only to satisfy a person's curiosity, like really what I'm doing now, to be able to ask you these questions that brothers and sisters want to know, when in reality, like you said, we got earth problems right here that we face every day. It ain't like we can get on a ship and just go to risk and start dealing with their shit because we ain't even dealing with our own.
That's exactly my point. So a lot of times when they be asking me about outer space, the first thing I want to know: have you read State of Emergency by Kwanzaa Kunjufu? They haven't read that. They ain't ready to be worried about risk, Nibiru, or none of that shit. They got Earth issues they need to tend to. I said everybody look like us need a copy of State of Emergency. If I could afford it, I would make people be mandatory that everybody look like us got one.
Yeah. So there has been over the years, for the past, I would say about damn near 100 or more years, all of this talk on how the so-called secret society called the Illuminati has this effect on our life, and the plot and plan to do all of these things, which we see it come to fruition, but I don't think that people generally have the right overstanding when it comes to the influence of this particular group. Can you expound on that?
So the Bavarian Illuminati are Adam Weishaupt operating in America as morals and dogmas of Albert Pike off of a treaty agreement by George Washington in Paris that wasn't even signed over here, right? So they control in the Americas and around the world. It's not a question of if it's there. It's how to get rid of them motherfuckers is the question. So that's what we've been really working on, how to get rid of them, because we can trace them back all the way to the to Mount Sinai when they landed. All you gotta do is match history books up with the story the Sumerians tell and the strategies of the Anunnaki, and you can weave history like a tapestry to show exactly what took place.
So, what would be the strategy to get rid of them?
First, you had to identify them. We already did that. Once you got them identified, then you got to find out what they're doing so that you can undo it. We already did that with Noble Drew Ali. Now that you know what they're doing, you know who all of them are. Now you got to locate their geography, and you have to infiltrate all of their levels in order to have. So you got to have a dog in every fight, basically. And having a dog in every fight entails you covering the same 9 areas of people activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor law, politics, religion, sex, and war. You have to counter on every one of them fronts. That's how you
So,
start taking the community back, all the way back.
so when you say we've identified them, um, how would you explain to the people who are not really cognizant of still who they are?
I wouldn't, explain it to them. Truthfully speaking, we to the point now. If you can't see the stage show, there's no need us. Right then, there's castles that's been vacant. They got caretakers in them, but we left the castles to go fight the war.
And didn't weren't there some of these, like say the middle class at that time was probably the upper class of this time, and they had a lot of their buildings or homes were turned into like orphanages and insane asylums, and they were bringing these children. Where did those little um, modern European Albion children on them trains come from? That they were taking off to places and putting them in these orphanages. Where they come from?
From priests in the Catholic Church raping nuns in Europe, and the children's mothers was nuns and wasn't supposed to have children. So when we needed to put pale faces in institutions to get the secrets, and we sent for the people that kicked them out of Europe to send who you can. Well, they brought a lot of orphans with them because the patron saint of the land is the patron saint of orphans as well and widows, right? So our cleanse was taking orphans in from all over the world, not just from Europe.
Mm-hmm.
See, they don't tell you about the Asian ones. And the Asian ones we made pacts with. That's why you have people that look like us with Lee in their name. Verdi Lee, Bobby Lee, Henry Lee, Arthur Lee, Jackie Lee. That's because that's the agreement with them to use their conjure to help break free from the oppressors.
Hmm.
So they came with something called the Sun Wukong key. The Sun Wukong key is also called the Congo key. There's a Congo basin on every major landmass. The Congo key is also called the primate key or the master key. It was the key of Enki, the rulership key of the earth on the Y chromosome lineage.
Okay.
The structure was the women was the lawgivers, the men was the enforcers of the law.
Wow.
And so, in order to be the enforcer of the law, you had to have the Congo key, which
And
is the master
that?
key.
What, I mean, was that knowledge or was that something?
It's a form of knowledge.
Okay.
It's a form of knowledge. It's how all of the clans around the world was all practicing under the same ancient practices, but now we in modern times and we need to get back to the ancient practices to overthrow the modern system that has ran amok and led us astray.
So the master, those who had like the master key system, was that like from like was it the guy was named Charles Hanel? Was that having taken some ancient knowledge from us and creating what he called the master key system?
So when anybody that put out a book that say master key on it is coming out of a Masonic lodge.
Okay.
They have codes in those books. And the only way to know what the code is to read the book.
Yeah, the master key system. Yeah. I was wondering if they had gotten that from us though. Was it something that was
all that's our shit.
Okay.
The Masonic Lodge used to be our rites of passage program for the royal families of the earth.
Wow.
But when they infiltrated the lodge, they used it to oppress us.
They turned our own knowledge against us by keeping it from us, learning it, and then, use. Okay.
Yeah. So they keep us ignorant while they know what's going on. That's what they call in the lodge the fiat lux.
Fiat lux, Lux.
Yeah. That means the decree of light. We know it as the biblical term, let there be light. And the light is the Promethean flame. And you know the story of Prometheus who stole the flame from heaven and imparted it onto man. That's wisdom.
Right.
Because what he's talking about when he climbed up to the heavens, it was the rise of the Kundalini energy and the sacred secretion. And once you become aware, you impart the knowledge onto the people who's willing to receive it.
So here's a question. What were we doing before 1492 and how did we dress? Do you know?
When you see those, we wore a lot of bison leather was our standard, and we also use cotton. They talk about the cotton gin that we've been using cotton gins for thousands of years, so I don't know where they get that shit from. That some plantation owner created the cotton gin. Right? That's something that our people was using long before they came over here. Right? So our clothes was cotton, and those in the north in the colder climates use furs and pelts for clothes.
Now I've seen pictures where I've seen pictures of giant women, melanated women, standing over small, I guess regular size, non-melanated women, as if they, and that these and perfectly proportioned, but big, and we were told that at the time back then that, and I don't know how true this is, that the Shirley Temple curls were created by Moors or women, and would put them on the Albion women's hair that were in their control, and it was a sign that they had, I think if I'm correct, that they were no longer like prostitute. How they had them in the working in the brothels or whatever, and they would put the Shirley Temple curls in their hair, show them how to dress and all this stuff. But the women were giants. I mean, like, you've seen pictures of Queen Khalifa, and she was a giant. Can you talk about, because you see some of those buildings from the World's Fair we're talking about, the doors were massive. Why were the doors that big?
Before the grid flipped, the people grew much, much bigger because, okay, so our synthesis of oxygen right now is a single oxygen molecule, O1, a single molecule, just oxygen. But before the grid flip, excuse me, the upper atmosphere or the ozone layer, it was down here on the surface of the earth, meaning the air was thicker with oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
And it made us grow into a different height than we do now. So being 7 foot tall was not a far stretch back then.
And so that's are some of the, I know they found some lots of graves with giant remains. They call them giant remains, large skulls.
Yeah, and a lot of them are Anunnaki too, because they pretty tall.
Anunnaki.
Yeah.
Now those are okay. So when were they here?
Oh, they've been back and forth for millions of years. But they used to didn't get involved in what was going on Earth until they decided to take over.
That's why that movie or that series I told you on Hulu, that because it has Valiant Thor in it and everything, and we heard all about that stuff, and I'm like, wow, they put this in that series, in episode season 10, episode 7, 8, 9. It's just they're just filling it all out. And the interesting part, they'll see it. I don't know. I won't even tell what that is because let them go look at it. I don't want to be a spoiler, but you got to look at it. Again, I keep saying thank you to Sister Ferry L. because she was the one who told me about it. And I said, I'll take a couple of days and look at it. I watched about 40 minutes each. I watched all 4 of them. I was like, I couldn't stop watching it because I already knew about a lot of this stuff from the so-called truther community. And here it is right here on this thing. But if you're thinking about American Horror Story, I would be thinking about ghosts and goblins, And speaking of, werewolves, tell us about vampires versus werewolves and when you told me about us being the werewolves.
Right. So the vampires is the ones who suck our blood. So those were the ones using the Babylonian money magic and blood right rituals to subjugate us. Well, we was the ones fighting them. And some of our clans wore wolf pelts. So we were the ones that wear the wolves, and they was the ones sucking the blood.
So the true what we see in the movie type
exaggeration
is an exaggeration. These are just men wearing wolf pelts when they had to go against these vampires, and they depicted it, in movies,
Right. So the ones that call vampires is the ones who own slaughterhouses now for bloodletting rituals.
That's what meat where they killed the meat.
We didn't do that on this land. Right? That was prohibited on this land. No mass slaughter of any animals on this land for any purpose. That's why every family had a family farm. Even if you lived in the city, you went out to the farm to go get your fresh meats. Right? But we didn't have cities. We called our cities towns. Cities is municipalities with a articles of incorporation. It's a corporate entity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We didn't have that. We settle our land according to the people that all feel the same way, normally form into a village. And the village will set up towns and countries to an area to feed the town. The towns were generally made in a circular motion, moving to the center. And the center is where everything with the children took place at the town center. That's so that we can always, and can't nobody get out of there with none of our kids. None of our babies can be taken from the downtown area. That's where all of the mothers congregated at. Well, now what they call it,
they got the squares.
Right, but now they call it City Hall. City Hall was the meeting place for the women in the town to look at the progress of the children to determine what we need to teach them for the development into the future.
So we understood. City, though. It wasn't called City Hall though, but it's
no, it was. Yeah, it used to be called Town Hall.
Town Hall, okay.
They even do now. When you hear somebody call a town hall meeting, they're making fun of us.
Really?
That's a whole mockery ritual of our original custom. We doing your stuff and you can't even see it.
Wow.
It's all a slap in the face to the sisters. Because they controlled the town hall meetings. Just like now, we calling for the three chiefs. Larry got to speak. He had to speak to the. He don't have to tell me nothing. He got to answer to the big mamas on the land. They want to know why we ain't got shit. We want to know where's our wealth. We want to know who's subjugating our children and how we gonna get over this obstacle in order to move into a functional future. He got to answer that. That's his job. As the chairman of the board, that's his job. And he got to have two witnesses, one blue, one red. West Coast witnesses Tukey, and the Midwest witnesses Angel Bay. Because you had to have one of the witnesses that was right up under him.
So someone had just asked in the chat, who are the three kings? That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Everything that we do, we have to have a witness of the righteous to verify that we was acting according to the conditions available on the land for her to do what's right.
So why were they arrested or kidnapped? And why? I mean, and for so many years.
It was a COINTELPRO operation.
Right.
Yeah, remember, COINTELPRO's mission is to take the leaders off the land. If the leaders ain't on the land, what's going to happen to the people? They all go. Look, people be talking about, I don't need no leader, right? You hear it all the time. That's dogma. Because they same ones that saying they don't need a leader, they either in the church or they religiously following somebody that they seeing on TV every week.
Mm-hmm.
They need a leader. And leaders are not made, they born. Spiritual hierarchy makes them fit to rise through the ranks. Most loved, most respected on the land by the people of the land and those who foreign to the land. Most loved, most respected, and then your natural skill set. What can you do? What did you train your whole life for? Most people don't even know. Some of these sisters went to school to be a nurse, but when they got into the hospital, they decided that this ain't for me. But they got nursing training. They supposed to be doulas. It's not compatible once they get in there and see how the medical field works. It's not tolerable. They can't take it.
Yeah.
Because they're supposed to be a doula. Right? The doula has always got with her a midwife, which is trained in whatever the modern form of medicine is for the day. But she's still practicing the ancient birthing rituals for the children to come back in and to maintain as much of their memory as they can.
When the babies come in, yeah.
Right. So it takes us years to break free from the mental slavery. Right. That's why Marty say, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind, because it's the internal work. But nobody's teaching us what this internal work is and how to do it. They just tell you to do the inner work. Take accountability. How can you take accountability when somebody force you to do something? And the force don't always have to be at gunpoint. It could be because they limit your options.
Mm-hmm.
Then you forced to operate with limited options. That means whatever you choose to do, it's going to work to the benefit of the one who gave you the option. Because he's not going to never give you the option to benefit you and yours, but he's going to only give you the option that benefit him and his. Big Mama say, leave no stone unturned, so I ain't leaving none unturned. I'm going to tell the whole lie they told, I'm going to unravel it right here for us. You know, and it takes me to repeat it 1,000 times. And that's what makes me have to say to Taj, man, how did you do it because I can't do it for 40 years. I can't do it for 40 years, 50 years.
Do we have, when it comes to time, you know, what are we looking at? I mean, you keep hearing this is imminent, the change, this is imminent, but how?
It's happening in real time.
Huh?
We train not to see what's taking place in real time for what it is. We can only see it when it's done. Okay. And that's what makes us become impatient. And that's why they came up with this fast food culture, so that we can want everything right now, so we have no patience to fight in the protracted struggle. This has been a protracted struggle. This war been going on a minimum of 500 years on this land. The Inca kids was fighting it over there for 1,500, 2,000 years before it ever came over here.
Where's over there?
What they call Africa. Right?
But they were those are the others, and they're not the ones that were where we are.
No,
now.
we different tribes. We kindred tribes, but we different tribes.
Okay.
We used to intermarry with them, just like we used to intermarry with Asia on the West Coast.
Mm.
We used to go trading with them by ship, and they come trade with us by ship, just as well as Asia.
Here's my question: how did we go from being as affluent and have build these palatial buildings, and even go back and look at what happened in Oklahoma when they, Black Wall, so-called Black Wall Street and all that. How do we go from there to now, then going backwards to looking like bedraggled, on the cotton field, out in the cotton field? How did we go from that, from an Atlantis type of existence?
Most of that is propaganda.
Okay, so we never.
So when you see pictures of us wearing potato sacks,
Mm-hmm.
that's propaganda. When you see pictures of us wearing feathers and moccasins, that's more closer to how we work.
So we had feathers and moccasins, and then we had castles, and we wore feathers and moccasins. Okay.
Yeah, that's our culture. Our culture didn't have nothing to do with Mario Brutini shoes, Stacey Adams. That's their culture.
Mm-hmm.
That they brought over here to influence us to follow their ways. We didn't wear suits with lapels. Ours buttoned straight up the middle with no collars.
Mm-hmm.
Or we had pullovers.
And I guess we knew to keep our feet in contact either with the land or with something that was natural.
That's the reason why we wore moccasins.
Right.
Right? And the moccasins, the soles could either be hard leather or wood.
So it was natural.
But it was natural.
Mm-hmm.
And the shoemaker was a valued profession. Now, a shoemaker don't mean nothing. We got factories that put them out about 1,000 a day.
Mm-hmm.
But the shoemaker was like the iron workers,
Craftsmen. They were craftsmen, skilled craftsmen.
And they had a unbreakable workers union until they started murdering them.
To take over that, to take it over.
Yeah. So when you see somebody that look like us and their last name is Schumann, they was the shoe man. They was the ones who made the shoe. So they started calling them shoemen.
Is it true that we didn't used to have what we call last names anyway?
No, we had what we call nicknames. Like we would be born with a name, and then as we grow up, we be given another name based on our characters. Like we got Little Squirrel, Boogaloo, Bebe, Shay Shay, all them nicknames.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we would go by the nickname would be the name we called by. But only Big Mama, Mama, and Pops can call us by our birth name because that's sacred.
Yeah, okay, but last names, like you said.
No, we didn't have surnames. They called
so
surnames.
We had descriptions, like you said, if you were John's son, that's what you end up being the Johnsons, or
yep.
or shoe. If you said the shoemaker or shoemaker or
yep. People that Smith, like I got a guy I went to school with named Ronnie Goldsmith. That's what their family was originally doing. They was gold smelters.
Okay.
Right, blacksmith was the ones who worked the iron, the cast iron. They the ones made the pots and the skillets, the cast iron cauldrons and the skillets. Right, so we had different names for describe your profession.
Right.
But
like my name was my birth surname was Dyer.
Dyer.
Yes.
Yep. So your family probably was the ones who dyed the fabrics. Mm-hmm. Y'all would have been the Dyer family. Mm-hmm. So when the people over here refer to y'all in the next city, when you go over there, you take this garment, these white clothes over here, tell the dyers, I need red, blue, green, whatever. Mm-hmm. Right? So they know when they come to town, hey, where do I find the Dyer family? Oh, that family lived down there. When they came from Europe, they use those as our surnames because they had surnames. A surname is a title of nobility. Everything we did with a spiritual connection, which would make the Dyer family would be the priests who operated the dye. You know, that would be their family function. Right? And the ones who was the shoemen, the ones who made the shoes, their family would be the priest of the shoes. Right? Everything we did, we had a priesthood and a royal family attached to it. That way, because after so long, a royal family gonna get so big, everybody gonna be related. That's how we was over here. And sometimes two brothers will fall out and they'll go separate ways. Big Mama say, well, you go to the south and you go to the north, and I'll see y'all at the family picnic. Y'all just don't bring that bullshit back here. Right? So when we come back to Big Mama house, we civil. We got our own territory, our own vine and fig tree, as Noble Drew Ali say.
Yeah.
But now they got us operating in a system that exploits the organic culture of the people and uses it as a weaponized tool to undermine the people. So they weaponized our culture against us. And if they catch us restoring our culture, they murder us. When you see the strange fruit that Billie Holiday sang about, those were chiefs and priestesses across the land. Those weren't haphazard hangings. And some of them, you see the tree, that's the whole family. And the most feared thing in the South was the black hen, because the black hen was the one under the white robe that led all of the rest of the white robe with the white hens.
Explain. I know what
the KKK was started by Spanish conquistador Moors. The whole dress came from Spain. And they would use the servants, the pale skins, and some of them were still blackamoors under those hoods. And they was the ones who was leading the campaign. And in the South, they derived the name called the Black Hen. Because that's all they could see is a black hen from under that white robe.
I didn't know that. And so when did they take it over and start to just do it with
when they killed the Continental Congress, right? And replaced John Hanson with George Washington, who was actually Albert Pike. Not Albert Pike, Albert Pike, Morals and Dogma,
right,
with no beard. That's when they made their advance on the land.
Well. Y'all, this has been, what you think? I don't know. You think we're gonna let them go to sleep and sleep on all of this knowledge that you have shared tonight? What do you think? I want to make sure y'all
they got a lot of stuff in this last 3 hours, and
yes.
Some of them gonna listen to it 2 or 3 times because some of the stuff in here is like pretty heavy for them.
What did he say? Did he say that? Yeah. But listen, I'm putting this up. You know, Brother Rod didn't ask me to do this. I asked him for his Cash App. I want, you all to, support the brother. Tell us what you told me what SikApe, SIKAPE stands. You said an acronym on your Cash App.
Soldiers and Illuminati are present everywhere. For a lot of the Tupac fans, don't immediately know what that means.
Yeah.
Right? Because he was Machiavelli Don Illuminati, the advisor to the chief.
All right. Yeah. So we you want to drop any secrets about him? Did he really leave the earth clean? I don't have to say where he is, but you told me, but you have to say.
Oh, I tell you, he in Cali right now.
Oh, now he's okay.
Yeah, he said you heard a rumor I died, murdered in cold blood, dramatized, pictures of me in my final stages. Mama cried. That shit was fiction. Some coward got the story twisted. Like I no longer existed, mysteriously missing. He was at the All Eyes on Me premiere with Shock G.
Wow.
And he been staying on a reservation in Arizona.
That's what you told me, yeah.
That's what made him arrest DMX down there for going to talk to him, and they knew where he was at, but they couldn't touch him because they have exposed